Good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm here tonight to tell Jacksonville that I am heartbroken, sickened, and appalled by the recent acts of violence experienced in our community. Since last Friday, there have been 6 murders. On Saturday, a triple homicide took the lives of 2 adults and a 3-year-old toddler. Overnight, a 6-year-old was murdered, while a 12-year-old and an adult were left with gunshot wounds. The 6 and 12-year-old children were asleep in their beds when a single bullet hit them both, killing one and injuring the other. As I've said, any loss of life in our community is tragic and unacceptable. I've said it repeatedly, one murder is one murder too many. But when innocent children are slaughtered as collateral damage to senseless acts of violence, I can't stay quiet. I can't stand to stay quiet. Today, there are Jacksonville families who have suffered unimaginable loss, the loss of a child. The families are preparing to bury innocent children, and that should not happen. Homicide detectives have stood over 6 bodies, that's 6 individual human beings, since this weekend. My question is, where's the outrage and the call to action and response to these inexcusable acts of community terror? Every murder is a horrific and evil atrocity and an act of hate. I spent over 10 years of my career, of my life as a homicide investigator, and I know that each murder destroys a family, and often more than one, and causes damaging ripple effects for generations and generations to come. I've stood over too many bodies to ignore how our community is being harmed, not only by violence, but by its response to that violence. Our homicide detectives are working around the clock to bring these perpetrators of violence to justice. We will not stop until every lead has been exhausted and these murderers are facing accountability. I'm asking the good and decent citizens of Jacksonville to partner with our investigators. If you know anything at all, please contact homicide detectives. If you don't want to connect to police directly, then please call Crime Stoppers to leave an anonymous tip. Police officers can only successfully complete the important work that we do with the assistance of the public that we serve. I know that the people in Jacksonville are also tired of this violence. But I ask you, do not allow that emotional exhaustion to turn into apathy. I'm appalled, but I'm not without hope. I believe that the police and the public partnering together can make a meaningful change in our community. Our detectives will continue to work tirelessly to bring those who terrorized our community with violence to justice. The identities of the victims and perpetrators are immaterial to their commitment and their effort. We don't tolerate violence under any circumstance. And I ask all Jacksonville citizens to stand in solidarity with me and with our agency. I want to speak directly to the murderers who committed these wicked acts of violence. I vow to you that this agency will not rest until you are held accountable for your crimes. You took the lives of innocent children, and we will use all of our investigative talent and technological resources to get you off of our streets and facing the maximum penalties afforded under law. Our community will not protect you, and our community rejects the subculture that glorifies the violence that you promote. Your acts are acts of hate-filled violence, and hate does not define Jacksonville. We will not be silent. We will not be passive. And we will not rest until justice is served. At this time, I'll take any questions that I can that you may have, but please understand that these are still active investigations, and there's not much that I can share as far as details are concerned.
Sheriff TK.
Yes, sir.
As of this morning, I believe the number of murders in Jacksonville has risen to 90, if you count this morning.
Yep.
And prior to coming in here, I looked at 5 of the biggest cities in Florida: Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, Miami. And it's, without a doubt, Jacksonville leads those. Jacksonville has the most murders this year so far. Those other cities have nowhere near the murders that we have. So my question is, what are they doing that we're not doing here to curb the number of murder cases?
It's hard for me to speak about what other cities are doing. I can tell you what we're doing here and how we are going to continue to do it. We've been doing the work, Eric. We do it, man. We make the connections. We're building trust and partnership with our community. I've done 8 or 9 sheriff's walks in our community. There's a lot of things that we're doing here to stop this from happening. But one thing that bothers me and bothers me the most is, where's the outrage? Where are the people that understand or know what's going on that are talking about these things? Where are the other leaders in town that have the opportunity to stand here with me today? I didn't call them, but have the why aren't they speaking up? We heard from them a few weeks ago, but why are we not hearing from them today? This is a problem in our city that we have to face together, and I believe that citizens of Jacksonville want to do that.
Another question that I had too was because obviously a lot of these murders that are taking place here in Jacksonville, they're gun related. And the question that I have is, you know, I get it that a lot of these handguns are being stolen from cars that are left unlocked, but let's keep it real. Not everyone is keeping AR-15s and AK-47s in unlocked vehicles. So how is it that these powerful, expensive firearms like these AK-47, how are they ending up in the poorest of neighborhoods to be used the way they're being used? Who's bringing these guns in?
They're buying them off the street. We've collected hundreds of guns this year, illegal guns. They're buying them off the street. They pass them around. We have our NIBIN technology. Tells us that guns are being used all over the place, and some are the same guns. They're being passed around. They're being sold on the street. They're illegal. They're illegal guns. That's what's happening.
Sheriff, is there any common thread to any of the ones this week, since they, other than the obvious one on Saturday, which appears to be a dispute? Is it drive-bys? Is it retribution? Is it gangs?
Right now, it's hard to tell. I have these guys here with me just in case we get into deep questions, but it's hard to tell what's causing it. The one last night is a little different circumstance, but the one on, I think it was Friday night, late Friday night or Saturday morning, was it's hard to tell. There was a dog involved which drew everyone there, but that wasn't why that happened. So we're still looking into that. But there's also some leads that we're following that may have some gang connections. So we're looking into all that.
Sheriff Waters, sources indicate that Saturday's shooting with a 3-year-old was gang-related, even though the dog was present. Can you comment further on the possibility of gang involvement in Jacksonville, and what is JSO doing to stem the rise of gang involvement with shootings?
So I can't confirm that because this is still an early investigation. There's a lot going on. But listen, we've knocked on 935 doors of gang members. You know, I think we might be one of the only agencies that goes and actively goes and talks to these young men and tells them what we expect from them and also offers them a way to do something different outside of gang life and gang activity. But the answer that I have for them is this: we want you safe, we want you alive, we want you out of prison. If you make us, we're going to put you in prison. And right now, I'm at the point. Listen, no, but talking's done. You start killing kids in our community, then we're going to do something about it. And it really does bother me that I don't know if any of you have been on the scene of a child that's been murdered, or actually walked up to a child that's got bullet holes in it. So I'm looking for the outrage from our community. I'm looking for solidarity. I'm looking for us to join together and fight this issue together, because my belief is this. I believe that if a community wants to stop a problem, that community can do it. I can list hundreds of things that go on within the agency and where we're having successes. But we have to have community buy-in. We have to have partnerships. We have to talk about what we see. You have to tell us what you see that might be suspicious, and we can load it up with policemen all day. But I can't read the minds of these individuals that are out here doing these things. But somebody knows what's happening. Somebody knows when someone comes home and sees them, you know, maybe acting a little bit out of character and have done something. So that's what we want to hear. We want to hear from those guys.
Sheriff, I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
When you say that people are responding, or are not responding or to the outrage like they were some weeks ago, are you referring to the mass shooting? Are you saying that people came out for that?
I am. I absolutely am.
With
2 kids, 6 and 3 years old. 2 kids. I absolutely. The reasons for it are different, but this is just as maddening to me. These are kids. That should not have happened at Dollar General. It was a horrible event. It's but a lot of times we focus on the reason for an event, but the impact that it takes on these families, these kids, doesn't change. So we talk about the reason for an event. I'm talking about the result of the event. I'm talking about a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. And it upsets me because it's very important for us to pay attention to those also. I want as much public outcry about that as we had about the other.
Sheriff, speaking of those kids, we know that 26 kids under the age of 18 have been shot in Jacksonville this year, and 8 of those kids have died is there any way we can help protect the kids even more?
So when I say outrage, I want people to be angry about it enough that we talk about it, and then we sit down together and we come together with solutions. Like I said, and I've said this a bunch of times, we have to have community and police together, working together. Listen, we're members of this community. All we are is we're employed to do this as a career, but we all have a responsibility to the place that we live. So if we can come together and figure out ways to talk about things, and we're doing everything that we can to build more community trust, build partnerships. We're doing all of it, but I'm not going to stand up here and read it all to you because that's too self-serving. What I'm talking about now is coming up with solutions and working together to solve a problem. Yes,
Sure.
Eric.
Gun violence here, it has run rampant, but then gun violence has run rampant all around the country.
Mhm.
And it to the point where it has become politicized, not just here, but in other places. And one of the things that keep popping up, we hear that a lot of it has to do with the lack of economic resources and programs, and that it's tied to systemic racism. Because we hear that argument often, and I wanted to get your take of what are your feelings on that argument, because it comes up every time
Yep.
we have these rash of gun violence cases.
Quite frankly, Eric, I think those are excuses to excuse bad behavior, to be honest with you. That shooting where the 3-year-old was murdered was in a nice apartment complex that's fairly new. There weren't any economic issues or systemic racial issues that I know of that caused that problem. And quite frankly, we have to take a stance and say we are not going to excuse bad behavior under any circumstances, right? If I do something wrong, then hold me accountable. But we're not going to excuse bad behavior. We won't excuse police officers' bad behavior, and we're not going to excuse, not from my standpoint, bad behavior in the communities where they're killing people, babies. So no.
And what are the agency's next steps? I hear you're asking for outrage or an outcry. There's still suspects out there.
Yep.
So, and I know you can't release too much information, but, at the apartment complex from this morning, there is a security agency there that they've been getting tips. They have an established relationship with that community.
Yep.
They've been working with you all.
Yep.
And so my question is, how do you move forward knowing that there are people out here willing to commit these crimes that you all still don't have in custody? I know you need the public's help to
Yep.
speak up also.
Absolutely. They're working right now. There are people in those offices working right now, working these cases. And those are our next steps, to continue to get leads. And what we're trying to generate now is leads. We're trying to generate information. I don't want outrage. I want people to be passionate about this community and tell us when things like this, and don't just focus on the things that are, these big global discussions about racism. Well, when it comes down to it, you have dead kids. Those families want to understand that we're going to do the very best for them, and we're going to work this problem and try to fix the issues. So it's not about outrage, but I do care about people want to come to the table and not elevate one over the other. These are lives. So I want people to focus on that, and we're going to continue to work. We're looking for information. We have Crime Stoppers here with us. We're looking for tips. We'll do whatever's necessary to get what we need to be able to solve these cases.
Sheriff Waters, is it safe to say that part of the reason why we're seeing so much of this violent behavior, this violence playing out in the streets that's affecting young children, is it safe to say that a lot of the reason why we're seeing this is because the perpetrators simply don't care about the consequences? They don't fear the consequences of going to jail?
I think there's some of that. I think there's also they're clout chasing, Eric. They just do things. They spray bullets into houses and cars, and they're just, I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. But whether they grasp whether this is real or not, I'm not quite sure. But I would like to be able to grab a hold of them, bring them in, get them arrested so they can answer to the justice system. Yes, sir.
A number of community groups that we spoke with today, specifically Mad Dads and Families of Slain Children, said that they believe their organizations need more funding to be able to be the inroads between the police and the community. What is JSO specifically prepared to do in order to help organizations like that be the bridge that you need to the
I can
community?
speak up for them. I mean, we have a budget here that we have to make sure we take care of the responsibilities that we have here, but I can speak up for them. I know Mad Dads. I've known them for many, many years. I know the mothers of slain children. I've spoken to those ladies for many years. So I will be a voice for them, absolutely 100%, and do the very best that we can to see that they get what they need, because they have been an ally. They do help us in many of these situations.
And also with 3 children killed this month, 2 just within the last week, another injured in a shooting. What is your message to the parents of Jacksonville who are putting their kids to sleep tonight in hopes that they stay safe tonight and in the future?
My message would be that you have an agency and a city that's behind you, and we want to do everything that we can to make sure that your loved ones are safe. And listen, I won't go home and forget this. This is not a show for me. This is real life. And we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that your loved ones are safe, your kids are safe. And that's part of the reason that there's a little bit of frustration spilling over, because I don't want to see kids suffer harm needlessly with this kind of nonsense. So that's it.
Does JSO have enough manpower currently to handle this onslaught of cases that keep coming in? Because I know you only got, I don't know how many detectives you have, but it seems like every day, you know, they're working a new case and another case and sometimes multiple cases. And I'm just wondering, you know, are they at the point where they're almost burnt out, trying to handle all this all at the same time?
No, Eric, so let me say this, and it sounds weird, but we're down a little bit this year from where we were in previous years. That doesn't make it okay or good. Our city is giving us 40 new police officers, and we will deploy those police officers in the proper manner. We just restructured our zones, you know that, to change them to districts, to how we utilize our manpower, which is very important. So we're getting these guys the teams and the rest that they need. Of course, you know, you don't go home at the end of a 8-hour shift when you're working a homicide. So sometimes you have to work a little bit longer to get rest when they can. But I can tell you that there are a group of dedicated professionals in this agency, whether it be detectives or police officers on the street, and they're going to do everything that they need to do to make sure that we get the answers that we can get. But we don't make any promises, but the one promise that I can make, that we will work as hard as we can until we can find some answers for families. We'll do the very best that we can.
In the shooting overnight, does it appear as though this was domestic related? You mentioned that the children were asleep in their bed when they were shot.
Don't want to give details. That investigation is still ongoing. So I want to be careful. Not that I don't want to tell you, but I want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of the investigation. One more.
Sheriff, I'd like to go back to...
Go ahead.
With those additional resources that you mentioned, the 40 officers, how soon can we see boots on the ground to help your agency get the news together?
So we'll be able to fund a class, I think, in March. Then they'll go through the training process with the police academy. Then they have field training. After field training, then they'll be able to go onto the street as probationary officers. And then after a full year of being on probation, then they're out completely off probation. But they'll be on their own after field training, which is about 4 months. Not including the academy. The academy lasts about 6 months or so, and then 4 months of field training, and then they'll go out on their own as solo beat officers. All right, thank you very much.